Hi, everybody. It's the Friday before Memorial Day. I'm Liz Fickenshire with eComEngine. I've got Chris McCabe with me for the next in our compliance series. Today, we're going to be talking about cease and desist. Chris recently wrote a blog post about this on ecommercechris.com, and I think it's worth a little bit of discussion. So, Chris, I'm going to stop sharing this slide so that people can see your face. But why don't you talk us through this?
Who wouldn't want that? There's just been so much furor and comments and questions about cease and desist lately because, of course, infringement cases are coming in every hour, every minute, and both resellers who are getting cease and desist, brands who want to send cease and desist, attorneys talking about it. There's just been so much going around. I thought we should address it sooner rather than later. And I'm concerned because I see a lot of comments from especially non-legally trained people, or they at least sound like they don't understand some of the dynamics of it. A lot of comments saying, oh, just send a cease and desist, or, oh, that's something you can ignore. And it doesn't sound like they've really contemplated the consequences of either ignoring one or sending one. So that was the motivation behind that article. And that was why I talked to Casey Vaughn about it. And I think there's also a lot of misunderstandings about how to report abuse or how to even do a test buy without abusing Amazon TOS and non-compliant practices you don't buy. I mean, we saw some comments on the screenshot I shared, which I assume you're sharing with this video, but that was just one example. I see these every day from somebody who says I'm being attacked by somebody who says they're going to buy from me 20 times, 30 times a day, and either cancel the orders to drive up my canceled order rate, or they're going to buy from me from ghost or phantom accounts and claim that my items are unsafe or that my items are fake. And some sellers seem to believe that that's an appropriate way to handle somebody who gets on your listing.
Well, and I do want to show a screenshot of that real quick. So I'm going to share my screen. This is something that you shared yesterday.
Yeah.
That I guess some people could construe as a cease and desist of some kind, but to me reads a lot like big time threat and scary.
Well, yeah, this is somebody, obviously, this is written in broken English. I mean, there are various ways that this can be presented to people.
That was me.
That's you at my meetup.
Yeah, it was. Sorry about that.
If you're in Boston for my next meetup, let me know. So, yeah, I mean, this is an extreme example where they lay it all out. A lot of these get thrown around on WeChat or different Facebook groups. Sometimes it's emailed to sellers. But the bottom line is do exactly as we say, or we're going to start hitting you with all these complaints that we know Amazon will enforce because their SOPs are weak and they don't really have like a BS detector on some of these things, and they'll just suspend you for it. And it doesn't matter what the truth is. It doesn't matter what's accurate or what isn't. If you have a competitor, they're going to take shots at you, and you're afraid because Amazon will probably fall for it, whatever they're accusing you of. And that's valid. That's a true fear because Amazon does tend to robotically enforce these types of things, whether it's an infringement claim or safety complaints. I mean, the sad thing is in 2019, all of these lines have blurred, right? Well, how are they going to attack me? It could be anything, really. It could be inauthentic. It could be a fake infringement complaint. You'll never hear from notice teams. They take days or weeks to get back to you, right? It could be safety complaints. That's why a lot of the safety complaints I see now are, hey, this burned my son. We all had to go to the hospital. Everyone's using these buzzwords, right? Hospital, bleeding, blood, burn. There's tons of keywords and it's just very effective. It trips those wires, and there are automated tools that Amazon uses. There are manual investigations that investigators conduct before they send warnings and kill ASINs. So the guys sending you these threatening letters know that it'll be effective. And I guess some people ignore them and others don't ignore them and they cave in, and it'll be successful enough of a percentage of the time for them to keep doing it. So
what do you do if someone does that to your listing? I mean,
a cease and desist, let's go back to the cease and desist example for a second. Don't make assumptions. Understand what your legal rights are, whatever side you're on, whether you're the brand or the reseller. Educate yourself on Amazon notice team processes, infringement claim process. And if you need a legal opinion, get a legal opinion from a good source. Don't just stab in the dark and see what you can hit in terms of a nearby attorney who may or may not understand the dynamics of how this works. Get somebody competent and reliable who understands the nature of these kinds of claims. because otherwise you're just guessing about, well, can I ignore it? I mean, maybe you can ignore it. Maybe you do have to take some actions. Maybe you have been, I mean, of course, if you're selling a counterfeit version of somebody's product, you should probably respond the right way to the cease and desist and knock that off.
Clearly.
But you're probably going into it assuming that you're only going to sell a certain amount of those products before getting knocked off the listing anyway. So people like that wouldn't care. If you're a brand and you're going to send a cease and desist, and this is what a lot of the article we did covered, understand that you can't make legal accusations of counterfeit or anything else without proof, without a test buy. You can't make false accusations of a legal nature without risking that it might come back on you. And Casey Vaughn would be an excellent person to discuss that with, of course, because she probably hears and sees this all the time with people, you know, her phone ringing off the hook from people who say, I want to do a cease and desist. Well, is your listing really hijacked, or somebody's just on your listing saying they're selling your product? That doesn't mean it's counterfeit right out of the gate. You know, you have to do some investigation and some research on it first before you start accusing resellers. So inform yourself of the legal issues present, and also inform yourself of how notice teams work, because you might think they work a bit differently than they do in real life if you don't understand how Amazon internal teams process these kinds of investigations, and if you're just sort of latching onto a thread on a seller group or a seller forum post.
So there's a really clear distinction between protecting a brand's intellectual property,
right,
and just helping you squash the competition, you say in your article, right? So there are people out there who are trying to send cease and desist just because their competitors selling the same listings they're selling, but they're not necessarily the brand owner, or they are the brand owner.
All scenarios have played out in terms of different listings, different, you know. What I'm saying is that Amazon doesn't want to ride along with you just if you have trouble controlling distribution of your product. And we had somebody come to the meetup and they were saying, well, we have a bunch of people who are selling our stuff, and we did test buys, and it is our stuff. So we have a control or a distribution problem with our distribution centers and our retail distribution agreements. So that's a different kind of problem. Amazon doesn't view that as their problem, because it's not. That's a problem between you and your distributors.
Right.
So the wrong response to that is to take it to the infringement teams and to say, well, this is counterfeit, just because you see a lot of major brands doing that. I mean, believe me, I understand it's just as crazy for a major brand to be reporting all these resellers. They don't know where they get the products. They have no idea from a test buy whether or not the item's genuine or not. Those major brands reporting counterfeit via the infringement process to Amazon. That's crazy too. I'm not defending that in any way, shape, or form. Every brand, big or small, known or unknown, has to understand what they can accuse resellers of before they start blasting everyone with a cease and desist. And going back to the screenshot we were looking at a moment ago, that's not the right compliant way to do it. You don't say, I'm going to buy from you 20 times a day and report you for safety complaints and inauthentic. Essentially, that screenshot just says, I'm going to use every weapon at my disposal, whether it's TOS compliant or not, to push you off of this listing. And obviously, we recommend doing, you know, tactics that are compliant and legal and not taking that path.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to the screenshot before and talk about what you do when you're a legit seller. As far as you know, you're not violating anything.
Right.
But you get a scary letter from what looks like another seller or from service provider or something like that.
Yeah, that's a service. Yeah.
So what do you do? How do you fight that? How do you?
I mean, it could be an empty threat. It might not be from the seller. It could be a service provider who's, you know, off on their own. There's a lot of questions you need to ask. If you think you know which service it's from, you should report that service to Amazon. As time goes on and black hat tactics get more sophisticated and more problematic, Amazon is becoming increasingly aware of who those services are, who the people are, and what the company names are. And they're more used to seeing abuse reports just about services, not about sellers. It was always report the seller, right? Now people are reporting either services and the sellers they're using, which they should if they have good information on it, or just the services. I mean, that's kind of new. It shouldn't be new because these tactics have been thrown around for months or years, but that's worth reporting, even if it's just a service like that screenshot was, because Amazon understands that these services are out there and they need to start tracking them down.
Great. And so the best way to report those is to?
Abuse teams. Unfortunately, there aren't ironclad, wonderful ways of doing it. We usually recommend that people start by opening a case in Seller Central, the usual first steps, but not stopping there. Make sure you follow up with emails to policy queues, policy teams.
And is this something you can help with?
Yeah, I mean, we're taking on more of these abuse reporting cases while at the same time developing new avenues to report this directly to Amazon, because obviously Amazon has a hunger for fighting and tracking down black hat services, but they want to do it the methodical, which makes it slower, but the methodical way and the right way, not just fire in all directions the way people have them with the cease and desist letters. I mean, that's the kind of amateur rookie league way of doing it. And I understand that there are people posing as experts on legal matters who are recommending these kinds of brand protection techniques or whatever you want to call them. Amazon views this totally differently than those people do. And you kind of want to view it the Amazon way, not in the compliant way, of course, not your own way, making up your own. But we've got a webinar coming up, right? We're talking about this more. Yeah,
we do. We have a webinar coming up on May the 30th at 2 p.m. It's going to be a little bit longer than usual. We already have a lot of people that are signed up for it. So I will post a link to that, as well as a link to Chris's blog post about this topic. But we do invite you to come to the webinar. We're going to be talking about product reviews and TOS compliance, of course, because I'm there. And we're going to be talking about the black hat tactics that are going on that we touched on today. We're going to be going a lot more in depth on all of the dangerous stuff that's going on right now and how you can fight it and still be successful in the Amazon marketplace. So,
and we'll keep talking about that because that's not going away.
No.
Yeah.
You're going to be seeing a lot of us.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Chris. Everybody have a great Memorial Day weekend, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Bye.